Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Is there anything else that I should react to? Okay. Easy react bait.
Yeah, I can go ahead and hop in the Discord. Hold on 1 second.
Wait, hello? Wait.
You're muted right now, by the way.
What the heck? I didn't know I was muted.
Wait, hold on. Am I muted?
No, I was muted.
I can turn my camera on. I'm just playing Clip Studio Paint.
Oh, okay. Is that a game?
No, it's literally a program for my my major. It's digital art.
Ah.
It allows me to hold on. I think I know what the problem was.
Yeah, I figured it wasn't an actual game.
Yeah,
I
got my output with me.
Oh, hey, so we all know that Donald Trump has been arrested. You know, he's free, you know, but he, you know,
fact about that, like, before we get any further, when I actually found that out, because, like, granted, I was in Costa Rica for a whole week, and they're not a very, like, political country either. Like, in Europe, if you go over there, like, people always want to know what you think about the circus that is U.S. politics. But in, like, Costa Rica, they don't care about any of that, and, like, no one was watching the news or anything like that. So I was completely oblivious to U.S. politics for a whole week. And then when I get back, like, well, first I was saddened about, you know, the gun violence in this country. But then I saw that, like, Trump was arrested. I'm just like, what?
I'm sure that kind of balanced it. That helped balance it out, didn't it? I'm sure.
I mean, I don't know if I was, like, happy about it. Just like, wow, like, where was I?
Well, how did you wait? How did you? Oh, Mike said hey ISM in the chat. Wait, so how did you feel about, like, the indictment? And I guess how you feel about the indictment and how you feel about the charges could be, like, two different things.
I think I was satisfied with the fact that he's not above the law like he always says he is. Because, like, no matter what he does, it's like he never gets held accountable. But it's like this actually went through. I'm just like, wow. So, like, it actually happened. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he's never said that he's never said he was above the law. He did say that he could shoot somebody and people still vote for him. But he didn't. I don't think he meant that he should be, like, not arrested or anything. You know what I mean? I think he was just using hyperbolic language to talk about the loyalty of his voters, which unfortunately he was kind of right.
Unfortunately he's still right about it. But I think it was just a thing, like, well, because it was just like, if you or I did half the things that he did, oh, we'd get in trouble right away, right?
Yeah.
So that was how I saw him.
But I mean,
so I guess that's happened.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I do think there are always crimes that go ignored or unpunished, and so whatever they are, I think it depends on, like, how what the government's perception of you is and what your class is. So, because rich people are rich, they help the GDP of the nation a lot, probably because they buy a lot of things. Many of them own and run companies, so the government isn't going to want to, like, crack down on them and treat them, like, incredibly harshly. But but if you're, like, you know, I guess, like, an enemy of the state, like, too, like, edgy or controversial, like a figure, then you're probably not going to be able to get away with as much. Like, we've seen the same thing with, like, Andrew Tate, where now I don't know whether or not I trust.
I don't know if Andrew Tate, like, wasn't popular, if that was gonna happen. But
yeah, like, but I mean, let's say for the sake of, like, my argument here, that he's guilty, right? That Andrew Tate's guilty of, like, what he did. If Andrew Tate was telling the truth about why he moved to Romania in the first place, a lot of people probably already do what he does, but don't necessarily get in trouble for it. But because Andrew Tate's viewed as a dangerous figure, that he's kind of like a target. But at the same time, if someone, like, just like regular Joe with no money to bribe the government try to do the same thing, then of course they'd be snatched up off the street, like,
of course,
immediately. And so I think there's always been, like, a double standard when it comes to the law, and there never should be, like, a double standard when it comes to the
Yeah,
law. And I think
there shouldn't be.
yeah, and I think with Trump, the way that he's been like attacked through like the judicial branch. Now, granted, I think I'm not confident enough to say that like he's committed any crimes because I don't think there's anything clear that really points to that. But I think there are some things that point to like the possibility that maybe he tried to do something. So I don't think that people should just like not examine everything that he's done. I mean, there are certain things where it's very clear.
What it is that he's being held accountable for, wasn't it? It was hush money from a porn star, right?
Which isn't illegal.
I'm not sure how it works, but like I don't know anything about the case. I'm just like, okay.
Now people should have held him accountable for that by not voting for him.
That was even a thing. But like, I think the thing was that I heard. Obviously, this is not the strongest case, and I think the reason, well, because it was Stormy Daniels who's the one charging Trump for it. So I think that's like I'm saying, like, oh, well, you can't really say it's a political witch hunt because like Stormy Daniels, a porn star is obviously not a political motive. I don't think there's political motivation there. And I think the thing was like, I think a lot of people were just like scared to be the first one to charge Trump with anything. Because the big one obviously is the Georgia phone call, the one with guys. I just need 11,780 votes. Just
right.
Find me. I think that's the one that people wanted to charge him for, but no one wanted to be the first to do so.
Yeah, that one seems to be the clearest case of potential criminality, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Even though I don't know what crime that
like I
violates.
even heard today, it was just like, well, now that this he finally has one like case going up against him, and like now like are these other cases going to start coming forward and just pile up and all that stuff? So who knows? I think that's actually quite likely what could happen. I honestly don't think this like Stormy Daniels case is going to go anywhere, but I think it kind of ignited the opportunity to have other stronger cases against him. But it's absolutely wild that.
Yeah, it's crazy because like another thing too is I think it's very clear. It's very clear and like pretty obvious that regardless of whether or not he's guilty of these crimes, the motivation for doing this specifically now is purely political because these investigations are not new, right? Trump's been investigated for quite a while. Initially, when I heard that he was getting indicted for this case, I was like, well, Trump has been under investigation for a while. So I would think that if there was a strong legal case to go after him, they would have brought this up years ago. But then maybe not, because I started to realize, I can't remember if this was like on NBC News Now or something, or NBC News Radio, where essentially, just with this case alone, because of how the legal procedures work, he's going to be like called into court. Like there are going to be all these procedures in this case that are going into like deep into the 2024 presidential election.
Oh, yeah, it's very obvious that this is wrapping up for. It's not really about whatever this case. It's about having this case come up so that bigger cases can be presented. I think that aspect of just this much is in some way political.
Yeah, and I think it's extremely unfortunate because we shouldn't have like a legal system that's acting out of like political, whether it's like political animus or just like motivation to sway a presidential election, regardless of whether or not it'll work in their favor. Because I really think that this is just gonna, absolutely seal the deal for Trump. Because if you have like a victim complex or a martyr complex, the worst thing you can do is make that person an actual victim. And that's like literally what they're doing. So
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So do you think that this is actually going to like help Trump in like the presidential run? Like the fact that he got indicted?
Yeah.
Like do you think so?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that this probably seals the deal. And I think that whether or not Ron DeSantis runs it'll be more determinant of whether or not it's hard for him versus whether or not it'll happen.
Well, you see, here's my take on that. I think it sealed his deal with the people who, like, literally the people, like, when he could go shoot someone and he wouldn't lose any voters. Like, I think that part is true, but, like, I don't think any normal, like, or just like the moderate Republicans or independents, I can't see how this would want them to vote for Trump more. I'm just like, he's just falling farther into his legal battle. Like, sure, maybe they're not the strongest or political motivated, but it's just like, this is only helping for the people that would have voted for him anyways. I don't think he's really drawing in anyone new. It's just like, I'm just like, oh, well, I wasn't a fan of him, but now he's like indicted and now I want to vote for him. Just like, that logic there is a little backwards with thinking that like moderate or independents or just Republicans that I guess would maybe be more for like if this is someone like who isn't cluttered in controversy, like legal controversy and stuff like that. That's just how I see it.
Well, I feel like a lot of people from different political perspectives will generally just accept signals that they see from large figures in the public eye who also hold similar ideals. So so what that, like, the conclusion of that, like what that means is basically, if let's say I'm a far right person, which I'm not far right, but let's say I am, right? Then what that would mean is, you know, if I see Nick Fuentes say something, then I'm just going to believe it.
You know, Mark, can you hold on for 1 second?
Oh yeah.
It's pretty gross.
I'm going to take prediction there.
The stream has been crashed.
But yeah, so like, let's say I'm a far right person, right? Then I would look at what like Nick Fuentes says, and I'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I agree with him. And so I think on a similar note, and this actually really surprised me, we saw the entire Republican Party essentially unify against Trump right after the indictment. Like we had like Kevin McCarthy supporting him.
Yeah, like,
we had Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah,
McCarthy is like he's a moderate Republican who's kind of been forced to have like more right-leaning policies than he would ordinarily because of that the Freedom Coalition.
I mean, half of his party, like it took so long to like get him to be speaker because they were like, oh, he's not. Yeah, he's a rhino or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, but like them putting them aside, at heart he is like a moderate Republican, and he didn't need to support Trump, but he did. Mm-hmm. And I can't think of a single Republican who was like speaking out against Trump. Even Ron DeSantis went and supported Trump. So I think right now, at least, the whole GOP as a whole is being led into supporting Donald Trump. And I think so long as that holds, so long as like McCarthy, Cruz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, all those types of people, which by the way, Matt Gaetz was what?
Marjorie Taylor Greene's going to be Trump's running mate. So
I mean, she should be. I mean, she should be. I think it's a weaker ticket.
So much faith in this country if that were to happen.
I mean, it's a weaker ticket. I think it would make Melania, not to go into all the scandals, but I think it would make Melania Trump upset. She's not as likable as like Mike Pence. I think she just is too like scandal ridden. She's probably scandal ridden in a way that's a little bit more dangerous than with Trump, to be honest. A little bit.
Oh, did you do the 60 Minutes with Marjorie Taylor Greene? Oh my god!
I haven't. Was that with Leslie Stahl?
Yeah, I've seen bits and pieces.
I saw a bit.
And just like, don't you think that's a little extreme? Or just like, not at all. That's the way things should be, or whatever that was about.
I mean, all I heard was that I think she had said that I can't remember if she said the Democrats are pedophiles or if like Democrats in the party pedophiles, and then Leslie Stahl was like, wow. But I don't know the context.
Do you know what a pedophile is?
No, I want to know what the context is, because like as an institution, I mean, there are a fair bit, there are plenty of pedophiles to go around, but as an institution, I think the Democratic Party certainly sets up pedophile-friendly spaces, if that makes sense. They're like environments that are not necessarily designed specifically for pedophiles to like to thrive, but it's where they can. And I think
Okay.
a lot of it is like, how like public schools are run. Because part of it too is like there's the whole grooming thing, right? Where they're putting like child
Yeah,
porn
that's
in
what
libraries and different things like that
I haven't heard that.
that
I
like
think
sexualizes them. Well, there's the book like there's like
that's a bit
gender
of a
there's like the
stretch. I
book
haven't
like
heard
gender
that.
queer. There's like the book that's like gender queer and other like sexually explicit books.
Oh yeah, sure. Some of that stuff that like probably shouldn't be introduced to children that young. I mean that I understand.
Yeah, and I will say like it being in the library itself, because libraries are like all ages places, at least the one where I'm at, where I mean I'm pretty sure like 50 Shades of Grey is in the library I'm at. So like so there are like going to be more like there are going to be adult books like in the library, but that's a little bit different than like a librarian telling a kid to pick out the graphic novel version of a sexually explicit book. But
back in my day, like even in junior high, there were some books that like 8th graders could read, but 7th graders couldn't. 7th graders couldn't read, but 8th graders could. Just like I'm sure there would be like laws on that or whatever. I don't know. The book stuff is, I don't know. It's a whole feel, but yeah,
and stuff like that. That's kind of how it should be, and it being like available for adults is different than like allowing it for all ages. I forget how we ended up on this tangent. We're talking about like because we were talking about grooming, right? So like getting children acclimated to like sexual material is like kind of moving towards like getting them acclimated to sexual situations as well. Where I mean, did you hear the stories that came out like last week where there are these 2 international programs? One of them is British on BBC4 called Naked Education. And the other one is Norwegian on NRSK or NRK or something.
About what I think you're talking about, then yes, I heard that.
Yeah, it's like first it was weird that it was like 2 in a row, where it's like 2 shows where these like adults just strip down in front of kids coming out like the same week or the news breaks. Like it's a whole wave of people, and the LGBT thing aside, because I think that's like a little bit different. There's some intersectionality, but I think the actual sexual grooming is a little bit more important than like the I don't know if like indoctrination would be the word, but sort of like the trying to convince children of like the whole like transgender like gender identity ideology
thing. Slippery slope for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, but they're different. But the line really should be like sexualizing the kids. Like it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, like you can be like a they or a them or like a Z or a zer. Like that's a little bit different than like an adult going up to a kid and being like, okay, I'm gonna take my clothes off. Like, at some point there has to be like, okay, this is the limit. Like, but I think, our society is not really constructed in a way to accept objective truth. So setting an objective boundary, I think, is going to be pretty hard, even though I think there is going to be an implicit boundary, at least in some cultures.
Yeah, it's weird stuff. I don't know if this I like the defense for that was like, well, it's illegal and like you couldn't do that in America because we have laws for that, but apparently it's different in other countries. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just we as Americans think it's weird and they don't, but I don't think it's worth a show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like it is weird.
A cultural thing. Yeah, it's like
I feel like it is weird.
I can't even like some things in like other cultures. Like I can kind of understand. Like with Costa Rica, like things that I've learned is like there is no like personal space. Like Costa Ricans are like very like physical. Like they like hugs, they like kisses, and like that's not even like a romantic thing. Just like one of our leaders, like he's married, but he kisses 12 women a day. It's no big deal. It's just their
Lucky.
thing. You couldn't do that here in the U.S., but it's something I can at least understand that that's how the culture works. But like exposing yourself to minors, like even in that being legal or like a learning experience, I just don't even see the appeal of it. That's where I draw.
Yeah, and I think it's stuff like that that would cause someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene to say something like the Democrats are the party of groomers, because generally speaking, you will see Republican pedophiles for sure,
Yeah,
but
that
you're
game.
not, but but you're not gonna see them saying stuff like, "Yeah, let's strip in front of kids," or let's give them porn, or let's like tell them to like do like secret text messages on the side and let's normalize that. Like
Secret emoji language.
like yeah, like Republicans will like some Republicans who are pedophiles will do that, but they'll never like actually push for that as a societal norm the same way the Democrats.
No one's pushing for that.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, there are extreme Democrats who I think, unfortunately,
probably not anyone in power, but
yeah, and I think it's unfortunate.
Everywhere.
I think it's unfortunate because I think Democrats. Well, first of all these like far leftist folks don't even represent a majority of the Democrat Party. But I think they've, in a way, captured. First of all, they've captured the kind of like the commentary sphere, especially like online with like Twitter and stuff, because they're very like busy. They're like literal activists. And another thing too is that a lot of the more radical Democrats are in lower ranking positions, like they're like teachers in schools and things, where they're very influential. They impact a lot of people. One could argue that like a teacher might be a little bit more influential over like the future of the nation than like a senator, because
that totally makes sense.
Yeah,
because children they're not developed, so like anything that they learn,
yeah,
if they're being something wrong, like that'll be engraved.
Yeah, and so I think because this minority, despite the fact that they're extremely radical, they're so loud and they have such control over the national conversation when it comes to politics that they kind of like make everyone like afraid to stand up like against them, to the point where we kind of have like some like very gross absurdities. Like I think I don't care if this is controversial. I'm just gonna say it. Men competing with women in women's sports is like it's one of those like gross absurdities where it's something that you wouldn't really on face value expect people to like actually take seriously as like just something that should be accepted. But I think a lot of people don't even agree with it, but they just go along with it because they're afraid to be called names.
Yeah, and like even as someone who like does like support like social trans rights, I think the thing about the trans sports argument, especially with like weightlifting, like swimming, things that records are being broken because biology. I think that's I draw the line there as well. I don't think it's right.
It's I will say, at least to give the activists credit, they do know how to get people to this point, because if we were in like, I don't know, the USA of the 90s and Bill Clinton's president, and some people just went on national television saying, hey, men should be in women's sports, people be like, what? Like they don't like start there. They kind of like creep over with incremental changes, because then that makes it hard to set a boundary if you're like creeping over slowly over time. And so yeah, it's unfortunate, but I'm hoping that the Democratic Party, at least like as a whole, the silent majority, kind of takes a stand and says, okay, this is ridiculous. Here's like where we like actually are, because I think otherwise we could get into dangerous territory where like, they are in England and, in Norway, where they're just ripping off their clothes in front of kids.
Yeah, that I don't think that'll ever happen in the I just don't, no matter how the possibility of however like far that goes down. That's end game, once it gets there, it's just like, where are we anymore?
But what do you think the line is going to be, though, for Americans? Because I think there has to be a line somewhere, and I think I think parents are starting to figure out what that line is for them in various schools. Um, I don't know if it's become a nationwide movement yet, but I think people are starting to figure out where they stand and figure out how to actually like stand up for themselves. But that's just school, and that's just one segment of society. Like, what do you think as a whole is going to be the line for most people?
The line is in what really progressive idea, as the farthest that you think what is plausible to happen, or
yeah, like how far are progressives going to be able to take the national conversation in society before the silent majority, who never agreed with them in the first place, like stands up and they're like, yeah, no, I've had enough of this.
I do think a lot of just social, either trans or what is it, gender non-conforming. I think gender neutral bathrooms and thing, I think, are becoming a little more common. I go to a pretty progressive school, so even sometimes I see things like that, which in most places that are respectful, you don't actually see any problems with that. I think that would be something that would maybe not get onto more rural conservative areas. But I just think especially in just cities that are just already very progressive, and then you already see some of the trans and non-gender conforming social scenarios happening, to where it's just become normalized to a point where there actually aren't any real problems, like they're just being harassment or misusing places or terms or anything. But I can see that getting to just maybe a slightly larger scale. I don't know what big with high schools, big high schools actually the experience of that is because I know nothing about with in in
you don't know
Illinois,
too much about being trans.
Suburbs. Yeah. I know, I think when you go to a school as progressivism, I think it opens your eyes to a lot of things. I do think at some points it becomes a little overbearing. But I think it's just become to a point where it's become so common that it doesn't become an issue in a way. I think people adapt to it in a way that's more positive, rather than, oh, which bathroom do I use? Now we have a third option in some buildings. Yeah, I think it's just, no, I'm not saying in future generations, oh, we're going to have more trans people or more people who think that they want to be more. I mean, with TikTok and everything, I think there's a very small percentage that I do think is pressured by that, but I think as a whole, it's probably not going to be. I think just the way we handle people who choose to identify that way better, and I think that's fine, because that's a social construct as well. Rather than, biological men who transition and compete in women's sports, and then that's a biology thing that is being completely ignored.
Right.
But with just social constructs, and the way that trans and non-binary people can just go about their lives, use the bathroom they feel more comfortable with, present themselves in a way. I think that just being more normalized is, I think people are more conservative may not see that, but just even being just more moderate before I even came to the city, I can at least have an understanding of it. Just being these people just want to be accepted and not have to make a big deal about who they. I guess not a big deal as in just oh, so this person's trans or they're non-binary or whatever. Yeah, we'll respect that. We'll just see you as another person. We'll just use your pronouns. You use the bathroom you feel more comfortable with. I think that's respectable, and I think that's just. I think maybe seeing that in just maybe suburb areas and things would probably be about as far as progress goes. It would be great if they did that in like small areas, because like I felt just like really bad for a lot of just like queer people in general from where I grew up, with it just being hella conservative. With, I mean, from where I came from, we had a day where people drove their tractors to school. So
Wait, where what?
where I went to high school, it was so rural and so conservative that we had a day where people would drive their tractors to school. And like it was such a small scale of people, like not even trans people, just people who were just like gay or bi or whatever. Just like there was maybe 5 people, and those people definitely got called out for that. It would be great if like it wasn't seen so differently, but I don't know, man. That's just where I stand. Is like as society goes, from my personal experience. I think just social constructs, especially like I forgot to bring children into the conversation. I think we'll definitely draw the line.
Yeah.
To where like elementary schools have those social constructs. Well, like college is like where I'm going to. That's totally fine. That should be everywhere, but like, yeah. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I'm curious because, and that's like one reason why I asked you, because I have my own opinions, of course, about where the line should be, and like also like what the line might be for other people. But I mean, I'm just like one dude who's like right wing. So like I'm not going to be able to gauge what everyone's thinking. I feel like for parents, at least from what I've seen, the whole bathroom thing, I'm kind of like curious to see like where that goes long term.
Oh yeah, the bathroom conversation.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm personally not like on the end of like the like 100% like I guess one would say like an inclusive end of that conversation, right? But I do think that having like unisex bathrooms is like a good idea where men and women and like anyone can go in without like being judged for like being in that bathroom.
Yeah, especially in like, places where it's just like you know, like restaurants and things where you know, I think a lot of people like when they're scared about like the bathroom argument, it's like, oh, I get this person may be perceived as like if you're like a trans woman and you're in a way perceived as a man, and just like, oh, but what if my daughter's in the bath? Like, if that's the case, like I do think just like having the because like there's this thing called family bathrooms, you know, it has the lock on it. And though it's not technically designed, you know, for people who just don't want that kind of confrontation. Right. Just the fact that that's an option, I feel like, as a society, if we learn that, oh, if that's what we're afraid of, you know, like, go ahead and do that. So, yeah, that's just in very public places where you're going to get, like, all sorts of, like, you know, obviously children have, like, we need this so-called to protect, you know, stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's, you know, a pretty easy solution to that.
Yeah. And it also like prevents them like from judgment on that end too. And like, so that's like kind of like where my line, I guess my line, at least on like that issue would be. But then also I look at the landscape and parents of children in public schools who I find to be the most vigilant as far as like pushing against this like kind of cultural wave. They seem not to be upset about it until, you know, their daughter gets raped by a biological male in the women's restroom, which I've only seen that happen like a couple times. So like it doesn't seem like a.
The thing about that is that when that's happened, it's not because the biological man was like trying to perceive to be trans or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I think those are just actual, just like creepy males that deliberately go.
Well, at least in one instance, it was. I mean, he was dressing like female presenting, at least to some extent. But
probably not for his social thing. I think that was very, very deliberate.
Yeah, but you can't always judge. And one thing that's tough about this whole situation, this whole thing too, is that you can't always judge intent. It's like, oh, you're a valid trans person, but you're not. Like, how could we necessarily say that? You know what I mean?
I think I agree with that just being a hard thing. I think when people say like, when they imagine trans people being allowed in the restroom that they're trying to be perceived as. It's just like, oh, we're just going to get these big burly men with beards and they just happen to be wearing a dress and therefore they're... Nobody is doing that. The only people that are doing it are the ones that actually are trying to, be predators,
Yeah, they're the ones you end up seeing on mugshots.
That little to be perceived is not in there just to use the bathroom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think, like, everyone says, oh, well, it's about, whether they can be perceived as, like, a woman or a man. It's like, it should be obvious enough. I mean, that's up to the eye of the beholder, but something as blatant as just a literal man wearing a dress.
I mean, that's a tough...
That can be clear to see. I feel like there's clear examples.
But in the LGBT community, that's also like that's also a point of contention though, where people are like, oh, like I shouldn't have to pass, or like I shouldn't have to meet a certain standard in order to like have my gender identity validated. I think it's just the tough thing is, I think as far as like policy or what our lines should be when it comes to like what the rules are going to be, they should be something that's like objective. Because if we get to subjective things, it can be like, oh, well, you seem very clearly to be biologically male even though you're in a dress, so I'm going to discount you as being like genuinely trans versus somebody else. Like I feel like either if you're a man and you present as like female, either there are rules that like apply to you or there aren't. Either like your gender identity is like validated or accommodated, or it's not. Because part of it is, I think the way that some people that God made certain people, they're just not going to be able to pass necessarily without like massive like surgery. And so that's like on one end. And just on the other end too, we can't know what everyone's, motives are going to be for like presenting however they present. I
truly believe in my heart that 99.9% of times that trans people go to the bathroom, as, the gender they're presenting themselves, they just want to use the bathroom. I think that's like 99.99% of it.
Yeah.
I truly do believe that. Like, I really don't think that any person that's just going to the bathroom with the gender they identify with just wants to do anything but go to the bathroom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was that one instance, and I think that was an instance of someone that obviously was not trying to be perceived enough to actually like pass and have the impression of just trying to use the bathroom. I think it was that one example. I think that it's such a small thing because people gotta go. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, he certainly went, but kind of putting that aside, I don't know if like parents are going to view that issue as like with such like nuance. And so I think that like for parents who are like the parents of sexual assault victims who were assaulted in that way, they're going to have a certain opinion on the whole bathroom issue. But I think, and part of it, I think, is kind of what you're saying, where it's like the majority of trans people kind of aren't like weirdos in that sense, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think because that's not a common occurrence, most people are not going to have an issue with it. Because with a lot of these things, people never have an issue until it negatively affects them or someone they know. So the parents weren't really upset about a lot of like LGBT stuff in schools. Well, many were, but they didn't like get like vigilantly upset until it led to porn being put in schools under the guise of being like just like LGBT books. Or people didn't really think too much about the whole like male athletes and female sports thing until women started having like their trophies taken away and things like that.
Oh yeah.
So
until records were being broke.
Yeah. And you had like like right-wing rappers like Zuby breaking like records of like female, like what is it, like power lifters or something. So it's tough because like, is the line, do you think the line is always going to be for people what they personally experienced? Because I think if that's the case, that could prove unharmful because, you know, let's just say theoretically, we're in a scenario now where like sex education teachers are allowed to like strip in front of their students at school.
Oh, that
like
I don't think that would happen.
But let's just say, like, for the sake of discussion, right? Is that, are Americans only going to think that's a problem when it happens to their kid? Like, I feel like that would be, that's like not hard to see, but I would hope that that's not where we're at, like, as a country.
No, I don't think we're near that, or that would ever happen. Just
not yet,
because we have laws obviously put in place, you know.
Yeah, but it's a very interesting. It's all this discussion. I'm sure we can talk about forever.
But but on that note, it's interesting. That is kind of, there is kind of part of that within the field that I'm in the sense that
Wait, what field are you in? I forget.
Illustration. So obviously a lot of art stuff, and I want to talk about this real quick.
Okay.
Because we were on like the nudity subject. So I have to do some like obviously like traditional art with like pencil and paper, charcoal, stuff like that. And that's actually my class earlier today. I do have a class where I actually draw nude models, and I was shocked the first time, but like this is a college level class where
you're an adult, right? You're not like 3.
Yeah, I'm an adult. Yeah, but it's just like, yeah, we can draw the line here. And it's fascinating, honestly. Like, I should show you my art sometime. But like, it's weird at first, but like that's just a normal thing in my world now. Now, if I was 17, I would probably be petrified.
Yeah.
But I'm 20 years old. I was weirded out for the first time, but now it's just like, this is just a normal thing. And you know what? I give those people props. But yeah, that's just another art thing for you.
Yeah. See, I'm trying to think. But oh wait, did I finish my argument as far as why I think Trump will the whole him getting arrested will help him win?
Strayed pretty far from that.
Yeah, we did.
I
think the only caveat that I would add is I think it's dependent on mainstream Republicans supporting him, because, and it's not just mainstream Republicans too, but also ones who are not pro-Trump. Like Matt Gaetz, for example, is someone who many perceive as far right, but he's like not pro-Trump. Like if you remember during the whole nomination of process of what's his name, Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah,
he was opposed to Kevin McCarthy in part because he wasn't a fan of how Trump's picks in the midterms went, and McCarthy is yet another failed nominee pushed by Donald Trump. So,
well, you see, Matt Gaetz also stood up and nominated Donald Trump,
which I thought was hilarious.
I could tell he was being serious.
And I was kind of, I was actually not the happiest about that, but because like, okay, then just vote for McCarthy then.
But like, okay, we can vote for whoever we want now. Like,
yeah,
let's see how long it takes for McCarthy to act.
But I think if he loses, I think the only way that he's put in doubt of winning in 2024 is if Republicans lose support for him. Now, it'll be interesting to see what happens. He's got a lot more support now than he did after January 6th, which I think is,
interestingly enough,
I think that figure's pretty interesting. And I don't know what could change, except for maybe new charges against Trump. But so long as he is like being investigated and is just proving Trump's martyr and victim complex correct, then he's going to be able to galvanize like the entire GOP to vote for him.
I think we'll agree that maybe it will help him win a primary, but I just don't think it would help him. And like, I mean, boring old Joe Biden could probably beat him if that's the case. But that's a different conversation.
I don't think that Joe Biden could beat anyone. I don't think he could win the Democratic primary if anyone ran against him. Except for Gavin Newsom.
Yeah. I've heard talk of Gavin Newsom, but it's just like the thing is that like
Or
I
Beto.
feel like it's so 50-50 whether or not Biden runs again or not. And I think if he runs, of course, everyone's just going to be on board because just like it's the easiest thing to do, you know.
Yeah.
You know, there's not going to be a debate stage or anything if he says right.
Yeah, it would be incredibly unprecedented for someone to run against Joe Biden. And I think
someone is, but like it was just someone that it was some author, some like
Marianne Williamson
author or something. Yeah, that's who it was. Yeah, and it's like it hasn't taken off at all. It's like taken off as much as Kanye West President Flora.
You know, interestingly enough, I think like the only ticket that would make sense for either of them for like a VP pick would be each other. So like for like Kanye, I think a Marianne Williamson like VP pick would make the most sense. And I think vice versa, like Marianne Williamson, a Kanye pick would be the would make the most sense.
Making it to the debate stage because every time I look up like who's currently running as like Republican nominee, I don't see his name anywhere. Like,
wait, Trump's name?
Is he not serious about it?
Kanye?
Yeah, Kanye. Yay.
I think he has not formally ended his campaign, but his entire campaign team is disbanded. I think.
Honestly, I want that chaos of him just actually running. Because he had that crazy thing with Alex Jones, and he just disappeared. You know.
It's sad because I think we need. It's sad because I think we need someone like him to run for president. Because especially if you look at his 2016 campaign, it was incredibly grounded and incredibly focused on the things that would actually make the country better. Now, granted, a lot of what he's talking about are things that would probably make more sense for the private sector than the public sector, like you know, championing nuclear families and trying to bring our country closer to God. You can't really. It'd be easier to do that like as a musician, a famous musician, than like as a president.
We have the First Amendment.
Yeah, but like Kanye's like 2016 like campaign, like his entire like all of his stances to me were just like a dream because I think they were all 100% things that would make the country better, particularly in the long run. You know, bringing our country closer to God. I think that we have strayed very far away from God, unfortunately. I think that's having some negative consequences.
I think that'd be a great message, but like as a politician, like
like supporting.
I personally believe in just kind of a separation of church and state, as religious as I am. So, like,
I mean, I think. I think, of course, the country would be a lot better if everyone was Christian and if everyone lived in godly ways, but. I do agree in the separation in that the government shouldn't be the ones like making that be the case. Yeah. Like we shouldn't have a government mandated religion like the like Rome did with Catholicism. So I think to that extent, that's part of why I wish that Kanye's campaign was a social campaign rather than a political campaign. Yeah. But still, like. I think if everyone was Christian or at least like had some semblance of godliness in their lives, if what's the second factor? Oh, the nuclear family. If we really push hard and champion that, especially moving towards two parent households with a mom and a dad at each home, at least as far as like kids are concerned, that alone would do wonders for our society. If you give every fatherless kid a father, that would decimate the crime rate.
I find that to be kind of a situation where it's just like in a perfect world.
Yes,
that's what we would strive for. But this is not a perfect world, and I think with the millions of people that live in our country, you know, like I don't think we can just tell those single parent households like, "Hey, you're better off with two parents. Let's make it happen." I don't think that's too way enough.
What's wrong with that?
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Wait, hold on. Wait a second. What's wrong with that? That sounds like a wonderful idea.
It does sound like a wonderful idea, but it's like, what? Can we make it happen?
We can't make. I mean, it's an entirely like social thing. We can't do it. We can't do it on a government level. I mean, we need. See, I hate using him as an example just because he says. Hold on, sorry. I'm still a little bit sick.
I don't blame you. I've been ill for a while. Today was like my first like well day, like when I wasn't blowing my nose. Going around. But
like, I think if we want to make change in that arena, I hate to use him as an example because he says a lot of terrible things. But we need shoot. My nose is even more stuffed up. Sorry, it was just like my nostrils were filled to the brim, and it was getting a little distracting.
I had to do that yesterday. Yeah.
But anyways, like I hate to use him as an example because he says so many like harmful things, but we need more. Not necessarily more Andrew Tates, but we need more people in his social position because we need more. I think I think actually the term is actually thought leaders. We need more thought leaders, people who are not going to say all these extreme things.
Good theology with like more of like the confidence of Andrew Tate, but with actual good message.
Yes, and this is why I love Ruslan because I feel like Ruslan is like you've seen like the videos I've put of him like in my Discord, right?
I may have.
Yeah, I think he is like the closest to like the archetype of like the Christian thought leader in like for like the current social media age that I feel like especially our generation.
It seems like those like that Christian YouTuber who like does like stuff on pop culture. Is that what you were telling me?
Yeah,
I've seen a little bit of that. I do find it to be a little bit, grasping to get your attention, though, with trying to connect anything in pop culture, like Christianity or something biblical. But I respect it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think we need more people like him, because for better or for worse, or probably for worse, Andrew Tate, fresh and fit. That whole crowd leads a legion of young people, and on the left you do see a little bit of that too with like folks like Hasanabi and stuff. But I think this happens a lot more on the right. But I think a lot of the messaging from the right, especially like the manosphere, is just too toxic, and it's not at all pushing.
You don't say.
Well, it's not even pushing like the. I think some would say Judeo-Christian norms that would be like helpful. I think maybe heteronormative would be a better way of like putting it, where it's like not necessarily pushing like religion per se, but it's like certain values of like men treating women well. Good views, like good positive examples in views of masculinity and femininity, so that women don't feel like ashamed of their bodies, but also like men don't feel like masculinity is like an inherently like toxic or bad trait.
And there is stuff that exists, but it's executed so poorly.
Yeah, and it's like if it's so terrible because the red pill sphere that was like just post IDW, because the IDW, I don't know if you're old enough. Do you remember well, you probably are, but do you remember the IDW, the intellectual dark web?
What year was that?
That was like a while ago. I was probably in early high school when that happened. I think folks of that who are now irrelevant would be Milo Yiannopoulos, Gavin McInnes, some people from that who are still irrelevant or who are still relevant today.
Yeah,
I think
that's not ringing any bells to me.
Yeah, I think the only ones who are in that sphere who are still relevant are like Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, of course. Oh well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and so they carried on from the IDW into the red pill community prior to like the Manosphere red pill community. But it's like that IDW was pretty edgy. Like Milo Yiannopoulos was essentially a shock jock who went on TPUSA tours. It's like the best way to like describe him. Like he is like, what is it, like a self-described like homophobic gay person, like he was at the time. Like he was like very much for like shock value. But like after that, the people who survived that and went on to be in like the red pill movement that followed, like Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson. I'm trying to think of some others, but I think that whole community kind of like died off by now. But like those two in particular are pretty, like, especially when it comes to like society and how like people should relate to each other, and in part like how like society should be constructed. They're very like relatively reasonable people who are like calm, and while like they are supportive of like masculinity and femininity, they aren't so, maybe not all of these modern manosphere types are insecure, but a lot of them come off as like very insecure about like their manhood, to the point where like Andrew Tate feels like he has to do streams where he has a shirt off and he's smoking with like a woman rubbing his back, like literally like literally like Sneeko feels like he has to scream at his webcam and shake it. Like like these, like Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson, they like dressed well in like a respectable way. I think Ben Shapiro's kind of like not doing that as much in an effort to be more relatable, but like, you know, wearing these suits, speaking calmly, and not using crazy hyperbole to like make their points, and just saying what they mean. Like that's like a lot better than what we have now with Sneeko, Andrew Tate, you know, Fresh and Fit. Like, it's so crazy. And the funny thing too is that those people were viewed as extreme for their time.
Yeah.
Like, it would just be nice to see a return to that sort of like civil discourse.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember that era or watched much Jordan Peterson or Ben Shapiro, but
I've definitely seen a bit of Ben Shapiro, but like in an ironic sort of way. I started watching Ben Shapiro like not seriously, with just his terrible takes on rap music. He's got it all wrong.
Have you ever seen let me see. My favorite, well, they're my second favorite, I think. Now that they don't make videos anymore, they haven't made videos for several years. But it's 1791 put out a really good video called Ben Shapiro is Wrong About Rap, just breaking down everything wrong.
I've seen that before, yeah.
Yo, I miss 1791.
Ben Shapiro will say something really smart, but just like he looks at pop culture and it's like, I don't get it.
Yeah. I miss 1791. They were by far my favorite YouTube channel. They basically got shafted by YouTube because they were right leaning. I can't remember what it was exactly that they said that set YouTube off, but they demonetized them, stopped promoting them, and their videos are very expensive to make because of the high level of like visual, like artistic quality.
I'm sorry, what? That is true.
Wait, what did you say about Ben Shapiro?
Oh, you know Ben Shapiro's sister?
Yeah.
Classically, yeah, there's weird words.
Yeah, I think wait, I think I reacted to, let me see if I can find it. If I can find out, put it into the Discord. What's her name?
Abby, classically Abby. Because I know that gosh, what was it? It was Ready to Glare, who I know you've seen from her videos before, did something about classically Abby about her terrible takes on like dressing modestly.
Well, let me see. Hold on. I put the video in the Discord where it's like Hasanami was like reacting to his fans like thirsting after. Wait, hold on. Let me see if I can set up a React thingy on here. That'd be fun to experiment with.
Oh no.
Wait a minute. Could I do a React thingy? Oh wait, let me see. Let me see if I can pull this off. So that would be, I would have to go like this and go like that. Put this up here. Oh, and then share my screen. And you should be able to hear.
Oh, watch stream. Okay.
Yeah, I think this should work. You should be able to hear. This was hilarious.
Because of you talking about it, I started playing Vampire Masquerade Bloodlines. Holy shit, it's awesome. It is awesome. Shapiro, Lamau, what is Abby Shapiro doing? Stop. Is this a joke, dude? Are you serious? Feeling beyond grateful today. Today I'm making my first breast milk donation to families in need. It's such a huge blessing that I was able to produce enough for my son and for others too. I feel very conflicted about this. Like, I think this is a nice thing that she's doing. It's great. I don't want to cover that, okay? I'm glad that she's got enough coverage for the whole town, okay? I know why you sick, twisted freaks want to talk about it. Honestly, chatters, like, this is what I have to say to you, okay?
All of you need Allah, okay? You need to stop posting on TikTok. You need to read the Quran. All of you need Allah.
Too much. Too much. Too much. Stop it. Too much, mother. Too much.
I just thought that was pretty funny.
Okay.
One of my favorite Hasanami moments there.
Yeah, I don't know much about classically Abby, just that she has bad takes on what's considered modest or whatever. Wild.
Yeah, it's hard because you can't, and that's one of the tough things too, especially as like a Christian, where like promoting modesty just makes sense from like a biblical perspective, but it's not like an objective thing. And so I think a lot of people who are set off by people dressing like immodestly or immodestly, depending on if they're actually, whether or not they're actually dressed immodestly, I think some people are just triggered off by their own horniness. And it's hard to be like, well, okay, you're dressing immodestly. Well, is it because, am I saying that because like you're dressing immodestly, or am I saying that because you're hot? Like, so it's like, it's kind of hard to like quantify exactly what's modest when that's like a kind of a social thing, depending on like what your culture is, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Let's see. There's probably more news and stuff that I should be reacting to, and I don't want to take up like your whole night.
We had a good conversation. That was deep. I haven't talked politics in quite a while.
Yeah, I would definitely be down to do more of these. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, you're good. You're good. But yeah, it's good to have these conversations. I like having them with my parents, and they don't agree with me either. But that's okay.
So both me and your parents are right wingers.
Yeah, my parents are a little right. When we talk about I don't want to keep you too much further. Whole Bud Light situation.
Yes. That's sad. I'm actually more upset about that from a marketing perspective than from a wokeness perspective.
No, I just thought the funny thing about that. I brought this up with my parents because we were listening. I'm sure you know who Kid Rock is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think some of his music is okay because we were actually listening to it earlier. And it's like, speaking of Kid Rock, did you know that he went out, bought 3 cases of Bud Light, took his AK-47, and then just shot down 3 cases? And that's just Bud Light.
Wait, did he
I was
buy it?
He went out, but the thing was like he went out and bought it. Just like if you're against whatever, if you think that there's an agenda for Bud Light and you don't want to support it, don't drink it. It's kind of counterproductive because one, you're giving it attention, and two, you went out and bought it.
Yeah, like the thing is, like, there's a viral video of someone who like bought a bunch of cases of like InBev drinks, like including like Budweiser, I think, and just like steamrolled over it with like some sort of like industrial like vehicle or something, and it's like they bought all of that. Those probably made up for 100% of the Bud Light sales. Like,
yeah.
But it's sad because I don't know, part of what I don't like about it is like the most recent Bud Light commercial I think is actually pretty glorious from the Super Bowl. I discovered it like 3 weeks ago. It's amazing. I keep going back and watching it. It's a commercial of it's called Hold or something, where basically this like couple, they're like hanging out and one of them is like on hold, and so what they decide to do is like crack open some cans of Bud Light and start dancing. It's like a very wholesome commercial, and the music is like the most popular hold music of all time. It's like Opus number 1 or something. So that's kind of a deep cut, but people are now going on there and disliking the video and leaving hate comments, and I'm like, no, this is a beautiful commercial. You guys are ruining it.
It's the dumbing down of this.
But there was a video that came out.
That's a funny thing.
Yeah. But there was a video that came out of like a like the VP who like recently came on like last year, saying that like the Bud Light brand is like not doing well. It's like dying. It needs to be revived and connect with like the current generation, and like it's become too fratty, which I think is like hilarious. That like a beer, first of all, beer brand would complain about being fratty, because I don't know what greater market.
They totally could have capitalized even more on that.
Yeah, they should. Like, and see, the problem with Bud Light, at least as I understand it, I'm not a Bud Light drinker. You know, there's only one.
Period.
So yeah, there's only one brand of beer that I drink, and it's not alcoholic.
I don't blame you.
But like, in general, American beer is just known for not tasting good. And I think with
it really doesn't.
And I think like we have like a whole thing now of we have White Claws, we have Happy Dad now, we have like Trulies, we have all of these like seltzers or like seltzerish, like, juicy.
That's trendy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I think that's why Bud Light sales would be down, not because it's a fratty brand, because people are still buying like Natty Light. Like if people,
there's competition.
Yeah, and I guess frat boys probably don't drink a lot of White Claws, so
sorority girls do.
Yeah, so maybe like
the other end of the spectrum.
True. Maybe like a better strategy would have been to just make a cheaper version of Bud Light Zero or something, where it's cheaper or like more water.
Bud Light Lime. They had good commercials for that.
Was it good?
Oh, like I don't know. I don't like beer. I'm also just 20, not 21, so I shouldn't be drinking it anyways. And
yeah,
even if I could, I wouldn't.
Yeah, from what I hear, like from the frat boys, not that I know any, but like they would probably care most about like price, and I think Bud Light is like more
cheap, crappy beer.
Well, yeah, but there are cheaper beers, which I think is probably their problem.
Yeah, I don't know much about anything about beer or the beer market or anything. I just thought it was kind of funny, the reaction or whatever. Just like that's something that I talked about with my parents. Just like I just want to have a laugh at this. I don't even if I wanted to boycott Bud Light, I don't drink Bud Light because it's shit. So.
That's fair, and I think that's the real problem. Because look, we have the Bud Light thing, and then we have the Nike thing. Now, I think the Nike thing with Dylan Mulvaney is actually like worse, because dude's like, what, like he was like what he was like
I wasn't
doing these
even
like
aware
jumping
of that.
jacks in like a sports bra or something, which I don't think that it's. I think a lot of women were just looking at that and being like, "What? This doesn't make me think that this is a great product for me to buy." So
This is new to me.
it's. Oh wait, you didn't hear about that? You didn't see it?
No, I didn't.
Oh no, it was so cringe. It was so cringe. But like you could look it up. Abdul Mulvaney was just like doing jumpy jacks and kicking. It was weird. But I feel like that was worse because it's also like
Probably.
it's also marketing a female specific product in like bras, right? Or at least it's designed as such initially for like breast support and stuff. But I don't think Dylan Mulvaney has breasticles. So like it's not.
That's what you want to call it.
So it's not like a relevant like marketing push. But even though I think that campaign was worse, I don't think you're going to see nearly as many people boycotting Nike or like even like Nike companies like owned by Nike, like Converse. But it's because their products are good. Like as far as like the price.
And also I'm guessing that makes me think. Maybe because if there was more backlash to that, maybe I would know about it.
Yeah.
I think I know about the Bud Light thing was because there is so much like outrage about it. I wouldn't have even known about it.
Yeah, if Bud Light was like the best beer in the world, no one would boycott it.
I guess so.
But I think Nike makes like the best, like at least what are perceived as like the coolest American shoes. So people are just gonna keep on buying Nike shoes.
I mean, I'll watch it. I might think it's a weird ad, but it's just like, I don't care. I'll wear Nikes. Like, is this the worst thing in the world? Might be bizarre as hell, but it's like, but Nike makes good products.
Yeah, I mean, I like it, but I'll still wear Nike. I may buy more Nike. I mean, I'll be hesitant, but I'll still do it. Because at the end of the day, I just want good products, and Nike delivers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're pulling anyone in that, but it's probably not something that'll push me away, to that extent,
Yeah, I mean, their shoes are fire.
They'd be pretty fire, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I keep on talking. Yeah, there's other things I could react to, so I think I'm going to go ahead and do that.
Yeah. Also, you know which one you should react to? You should react to Mr. Pizza. Fuck the YTP community. I that one.
I should check that out. I'm wondering now though, like every time I hop on the stream, is there gonna be like the YTP community sucks video?
I don't know.
Did I leave my whole community in that? Because I was the one saying the YTP sucked like way before this.
I mean, it's about the community. I mean, actually, no, I won't spoil it. I want you to see it for yourself. So that's my last piece. All right, good talking to you, Mar.
All right, peace out, man. That was fun. I love having these conversations, specifically with people who disagree with me, because let's be honest, echo chambers suck. They're bad. We can't just be talking to people that we agree with all the time. We need to have respectful dialogues with people that we disagree with, and I hope to model that in my streams. Come on, let me check the TTS here.